My name is Martin Schigula, and I'm working for a company which is called SAP. And in my talk today, I would like you to tell our story, how we went into our DevOps journey, and how we choose Chef as our main automation tool to do configuration management and policy enforcement, and how we collaborate and work together with our development teams. So before I start, maybe it's good to know how many people of you know SAP? Raise hands. Wow, more than I expected. But anyway, I give you a small introduction about SAP, who we are and what we are doing. So SAP is creating enterprise applications, and SAP is a company with a history of 44 years. So it was founded in the 70s, and since then we are creating applications and innovations for enterprise companies. At the moment, SAP serves over 300,000 customers in over 190 countries, and we have partners, over 12,000 partners, companies which we are working globally together. SAP has at the moment around 78,000 employees worldwide in over 130 countries. Also, we have SAP has development locations in over 100 countries, also worldwide distributed. So we are a globally spread company with development centers worldwide. To give you a little bit an overview about what kind of products SAP provides, I've just added a couple of products to the slide here. If you want to have more details about our products, what we're offering to our customers, please visit our company webpage, sap.com. So you might have heard, or if you are interested in databases, you came across about our in-memory database, SAP HANA, and of course, our SAP HANA platform. Of course, we are creating our SAP Business Suite for our enterprise customers, but we are also doing enterprise analytics applications and also big data for our customers. SAP is creating also mobile applications. I saw a number on our official webpage that we have something like about 130 different mobile applications which we create for our customers. And of course, we are providing or creating also applications for the Internet of Things and of course for the cloud. So, who am I? As I said, my name is Martin Schigula, and I started to work in 2001 already with SAP. So I'm 15 years in this company, and I had, of course, several roles during that time held in SAP. And one of the last roles I had within SAP was an architect role for a small team which creates applications or solutions for our SAP internal community as well for external properties. So this team created or creates applications or creates our SAP.com website, also our SAP online store. And the cool thing what they did is, when I joined the team is 5 years ago, they did something what I didn't know before, is something like what they called continuous integration, continuous delivery, and DevOps. So already 5 years ago, there was a small team within SAP what was working with that kind of methodologies and tools. So during that time, I learned a lot about DevOps and continuous integration and continuous delivery. So my current position is that I'm managing an automation team for the DevOps COE team, and I come into this in a few moments. So to give you a little bit an insight about our environment, who we are, and what we're doing, this is how our unit within SAP IT is currently look like. We have in 3 teams within our organizations. 2 teams are providing operational support, and The one team is the Global Landscape, Global Labs Development Systems Operations team. So this team is providing the operational support for the infrastructure of our development teams. As I mentioned in the beginning, SAP has something about 100 development centers and labs around the world. So this team is providing the infrastructure support for those centers. The second team is the training, demo, and consulting team. So this is basically the operations team for our training and demo systems. So they're doing the operations for the real customer trainings, what are given to the customers, as well as demos for our sales force, that they can do training demos for SAP applications, and they're using those systems. There's a third group, the Devops COE. I will come to that in a few minutes. So our team is distributed worldwide as well, since we are an enterprise company. So we have teams sitting in North America. We have teams in Europe. We have teams in Israel, India, Singapore, and China. The infrastructure, what we have to operate on, is it's very mixed. So we have, of course, physical hardware, which we have to operate. Sorry, we have virtual machines, which we have to operate. And we have also recently started to operate on container technology, basically also having the orchestration layer for this kind of technology, what we are providing support for. From the type of operating systems, we are supporting Windows systems, all kind of flavors or versions, better to say. We have different Linux versions, what we operate and provide to our development teams. We are providing also Mac OS operating systems to develop and test our Mac applications on that, and of course some Unix flavors what we have to operate on. So this should give you here a little bit an overview about the landscape and the distribution of our team, what we have to handle. To give you some additional numbers is that we have for our internal customers, which are the development organizations, and the training and demo teams, we have over 27,000 servers to manage, and all servers, or most of the servers, are somehow different. So it's not a case that we have all the servers set up in the same way. We have basically a lot of applications what SAP is developing and maintaining. We have for all those kind of applications and products, of course, the infrastructure available and ready to test, develop, and maintain. Our training organization, I think these are the numbers, if I remember right, from just from the first half of this year, provided over 4,000 training sessions to customers, and also 2,600 demos for our customers. So this is the setup what we have to deal with, and in 2015, the leadership of our unit sit together, and they started to think about how can we support SAP in the digital transformation. So they decided, or they made a decision, that we want to integrate DevOps practices and tools into the SAP development value chain to enable the development teams to deliver the SAP innovation faster and more reliable. So this was basically the idea, what they started in beginning of 2015 to transform our own unit to support the SAP. So the leadership team set basically 4 targets which they wanted to achieve. The first target was to automate everything. So automation from development to the build process, the QA process up to production should be completely automated. So this was one of the targets what we wanted to achieve. The second target was to codify the infrastructure. Means that we have everything under infrastructure as code, everything is versioned, that we don't do any manual modifications or changes to our infrastructure. The third target was to share and make it easy for our development teams and to share with other development or other operation organizations our let's say, our outcomes, what we deliver as infrastructure as code to the other teams so that they can easily access it and execute it on their own if they want to have it. The fourth target was that we want to provide our development teams a user-centric feature that they have a self-service to get and manage their infrastructure themselves as needed, so that we are not always involved to provide them infrastructure support for just a single, for a simple request to just set up a machine and install a product for it, for the developer on top of it, so that he can test or evaluate a use case or an incident from a customer that he has easy access to such an infrastructure. So the targets were set, and we decided, of course, to have everything end-to-end automated. But of course, you need to define also for the targets some metrics to measure the outcome. So for this, what we decided, or the leadership decided at that time, is that everything what we do with these targets that we achieve is to make it cheaper, to put incremental changes and in terms of cost and time at risk to make everything cheaper. Of course, we want to increase the speed and the reliability of our infrastructure and deployments for the development teams and for the operations teams. So with that, in 2015, the leadership team set the targets and set also how to measure it, the value, and the org unit or the unit itself started to execute on those targets. So it was, we created something like a small adoption program for Devops, beginning of 2015, and we chose several, let's say, key team members from our organization who can drive several topics and executed on them. So during our implementation or adoption of the targets, where we wanted to go to, we created a lot of training sessions for the different teams. We created POCs to evaluate tools if it works for our requirements, like we did an evaluation with Chef together with the Chef server, if we can manage our diverse infrastructure, hardware, physical, container was not at that time in focus, but if you can use the Chef server to manage that kind of infrastructure. During the time, the team had an evolution. So the team started from a traditional developer or system administrator to start into the DevOps journey to do things different than what they did before. So before, the system administrator did things manually. They logged into a server, replied or worked on a service request or an incident, and delivered the result to the customer. The developers had also, in the beginning of the journey, different tasks. So there was also a shift to have a new language to learn, basically Chef as a new coding language, which the team had to adopt and to learn. And during that phase, we saw that in the beginning, the team did not really understand why we are doing this DevOps journey. So did not really understand the goal, why we have to do that. So even if we described also the targets, why we're doing this to help SAP with the transformation, and we want to reduce the cycle times, we want to reduce the costs for support, and so on. It was really hard and challenging to make the complete understand why we have to do this. Another challenge for us was that not every admin is a good ops in DevOps. So if you're doing system admin tasks since many years in the same way, it's really hard for them to have a mind shift in a very short time to understand what is really the benefit of doing it as infrastructure as code than before as I was logging in or even having a small batch script which is doing my job. So we had to deal with this in the same way as we had, of course, that not every developer is a good dev in ops. So some of the developers did not really understand why we have this whole source control, quality check, code review thing to do to just install an application. So why not just go to the server and hit execute and install the application? So we had to face also these kind of challenges. And something which is maybe obvious, but it is also what we had as a challenge is that not everyone in the team has the same speed of progress to learn new things or to adopt the new techniques and the new practices what we wanted to do. So here we had here are our challenges. But we started a journey, and what we did is we did the trainings for our teams, and at the same time we started also to do some real projects with our customers, our internal customers, the development organizations. So we looked up for some teams which are interested and curious about going the way of DevOps, which are open-minded and or even ask for help and support to us at that time to introduce DevOps methods and tools. And we started with them to create this kind of continuous integration, continuous delivery, and DevOps integration into their development processes. After a year of executing this, and this is basically at the moment the as-is situation of this year, and we are not yet done with our DevOps journey, so we are, I would say, in the middle of it, is that we have created an DevOps COE, and based off the projects what we did with our development teams and the work together with our operations teams and our development teams, we have created some services where we think or where we are successful with our internal customers, the development teams, and to support them. So our services to our development unit and organizations is that we collaborate with the development teams to integrate automation into any continuous integration platform. So within SAP, you know, it's a long history of company. We have not only one CI system, but we have several CI systems. We have also some other engineering services which are providing a central platform for continuous integration. So we have the development teams which have not the power to have such an operation or such an CI tool to operate. We help them to set it up, configure it, or to use what we have available within SAP. The second service what we provide is that we automate server, system, and application provisioning for our development and IT operations. So today we have automated the setup or the deployment of application servers, as well as the setup of the application servers with SAP applications or any kind of other development tools that are required, completely automated with Chef, and of course with our internal cloud or infrastructure platforms. Another service what we're doing is, and this is mainly for our ops team itself, is that we apply and enforce configuration management on our production and our development systems. For that, we are using here Chef as well. And we have the requirement, as anyone here in the room, I guess, and I heard it already many times also in the keynote talk, is the compliance topic. So we have, of course, also to be compliant, and we have also to enforce several security standards on our servers. Even if they are development systems, we have to be compliant. For that reason, we have created also with Chef cookbooks, which are implying this kind of configurations and enforcements and settings for our applications, operating systems, and we execute them on a frequent or regular basis on those servers. So we have a scheduled task on all servers, which execute the Chef client. At the moment, it's hourly to enforce the configuration on the servers and enforce the policies what we need to apply. So any manual changes what are done to the servers will be reverted within 1 hour. The next service what we provide is, of course, to make the life of developer easier is and self-service for the end-to-end process. So many developers just require to have a virtual machine with something installed on it, even if it's an SAP product for testing or if they need something to try out. So this is some requirements the development teams have, but they do not want to waste or spend the time to create those machines manually, run some kind of command tools to execute a chef client run or whatever. So for that reason, we supported the team, and we created an UI which simplifies the whole usage of it so that the development teams do not have to take care about infrastructure topics, so that they can focus on their development tasks and can just use our tools for that. Of course, we adopt and implement the latest DevOps technologies and tools. We have, of course, a lot of contacts to our development organizations. They come either themselves with some ideas they want to implement, but they don't know how to do it, or they are looking for some help and solutions to implement DevOps tools and technologies, and we are helping and supporting them here as well. Of course, what we as our main core competence is our services that we provide support for the development systems in all the labs locations. So the DevOps COE team is, if you so will, something which is at the moment needed for our operations team and for our development teams to glue everything together. So usually you would think about DevOps that you have within the development teams, the operations team embedded, and they work together on a product and so on. But due to the fact that we have that many development systems to support, for us this is at the moment the better model how we can provide value to the development teams here. So how do we do DevOps projects with our development teams today? So we have split our DevOps COE here as well into two main roles. One role is what we call the solution analysts. So these are some team members which are working very closely together with the LOBs, with our development teams, and they're focusing on getting basically the requirements of what the development teams have in regards of continuous integration, continuous delivery, infrastructure needs, and development tools, what they need to have and require. Those kind of requirements will be then hand over to the automation team, which I lead, and my team is creating for that chef cookbooks to install and automate the infrastructure and application installations for these requirements. So how does the solution analyst start? Is very simple. So they listen to the development teams and try to understand and map out their requirements and their pipeline, what their model is, how they work. So they really map out the complete process from the build, from the source code check-in until the build process to the testing phase up to packaging or a production deployment. So they may map everything out from the complete development stream. During that phase, they have identified the pain points and the bottlenecks of the development teams. So they try to quantify the process. They measure everything as possible within the build pipeline. So how many times a build is executed, how many times it's tested, how long it takes to build a build, how long it takes until the tests are completed. So everything what we can measure, we try to measure, and we try to find the bottlenecks and potential some spots for improvements. As soon as we have the bottlenecks identified and we have measured the quantity of the builds and we know what we can improve, we of course try to find two ways how we can improve it, how we can parallelize processes, how we can make things quicker, where can we improve the situation with automation, and this is how the development teams, or this is how the solution analysts map out the development targets for the automation team, which we then implement and then hand over to our customers, the development teams. So on this slide, I will give you just a small selection of tools, of our pick of tools. So it's not the it's not, I don't want to say this is the tool of choice which you have to choose, but this is what we are using here for our end-to-end process. And we are using for the planning Jira for our projects. We're using for version control Git. We code with Chef for automation. We do some automated testing with Food Critic and Robocop. We're using our internal cloud platform and infrastructure to do some automated testing of our automation cookbooks as well. We're using here Jenkins to automate that process. We release our cookbooks into our internal shelf. So we have something like a supermarket internally with an SAP, which is then also accessible from everyone, where we do release our automation cookbooks. And then, of course, we can deploy those automation to any infrastructure what we have within SAP, either if it is VMware-based or our internal private cloud solution, or if it's Amazon, OpenStack, whatever. Usually the cookbooks are running on all these kind of infrastructures. And of course, we do also operation with the tools like Chef, Git, and our internal incident management system. So we have an internal system which we call IT Direct. So here we are handling incidents or service requests for our infrastructures which we operate on. For the monitoring for the monitoring, we are using tools for the projects, Jira, of course. For the infrastructure, we have Nagios in place for that. So, what do we do with Chef? As I mentioned, we try to automate everything as far as possible. So, any kind of request what we get from development teams to automate or to deploy on infrastructures, to install on infrastructures, to configure on infrastructure, if it is a database, if it is an application server, or anything else. So we try to automate everything end to end. For that reason, my team has created, meanwhile, 177 cookbooks. None of them are available on the supermarket externally because they're very have some specific requirements which are only required for us internally SAP. Of course, we also look if there is something available on the supermarket which we can reuse, which we then either try to use or if we have to redevelop it.
I'm sorry, are the 177 cookbooks released, are they publicly accessible?
No, they're only internal release. So we have an internal shelf, something like a cookbook shelf or a supermarket, and we release them. We have them only released internally. Although we started to open source our cookbooks as well, I think we have 2 cookbooks meanwhile open source, basically SAP HANA Studio and something else with SAP HANA. So you find it also on our public GitHub repository for that. But our goal is to contribute also to the open source community more and more. So we started with open sourcing it, and we will continue with that. Not only. That's a good question. The question was if the cookbooks are created only by the Center of Excellence team or also by the infrastructure team. We have also from our operations team selected members which are contributing and helping us to create those cookbooks because our developers who are creating those cookbooks are not that deep in infrastructure requirements as our operations team itself. So for that reason, we have also operations team members which are creating and maintaining cookbooks. So it's a combination of operations team and the automation team which are creating and maintaining cookbooks.
So you, in a typical DevOps presentation, it's always like you have to have the silos slide where we're trying to eliminate silos. But do you feel like with a dedicated DevOps team, you may have just created another silo? Or how do you think about that where there's automation that's supposed to spread throughout the organization, but at the same time it does take dedication to pull it off in a large organization?
Excellent question. I cannot repeat everything, the complete question, I know, to the audience, but the short form was, don't you create another silo with your DevOps COE, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes and no. At the moment, we have the feeling that we have to have this kind of team at the moment because in a such huge enterprise, you cannot transform it from day one, the complete organization. If you do that, I was listening to yesterday also to this leadership summit where they had same questions, and my feeling was many companies are just starting to think how should I create my organization to have DevOps in place. So how do I rearrange, how do I organize my enterprise organization to enable DevOps? So our idea was a little bit different. We are an operations team. We wanted to do DevOps. We wanted to do it with the development teams. But instead of waiting or asking for big reorganizations, we just started. We chose four targets, which we thought we can achieve during the first year. And we executed on that. And we just started. And for that reason, we created the DevOps COE, or the outcome was that we have this DevOps COE, which helps and supports that. As I said, we are not at the end of our transformation journey into DevOps, but we started with that. It fulfills at the moment our needs and requirements, and I would be happy if we can get rid of the DevOps COE in the future, and that we have all the development teams and operations team integrated and not having this kind of silos. At the moment, for the time being, it was all our solution to provide this or to go our way into DevOps. Yeah.
So how are you guys managing those via Chef?
Good question. How we do? Yeah. How do we manage not only application or configuration management tasks, also all the other operational tasks? How do we manage them today with the operations team? The question is, do we use Chef for that at the moment? Is the question. So we try to do as much as possible with Chef. We cannot do everything with Chef because, of course, we are doing the support or the operation for our development landscapes, but of course there are other landscapes within SAP, and there are also some tools already in place which are used. So we have a combination of all at the moment. So we're using also tools from other companies to automate some kind of tasks, but from our perspective, we are using at the moment as much as we can Chef, and we want also to work on that much more. But at the moment, we have also here a mixed situation that we have also some other tools in place where we have to execute and use on for at the moment. We hope that we can change that also in the future. Yeah. Yeah.
So even there, we need a set of automations where we can speed up a lot of activities over there. So that is where I think. But the reason why I'm asking is those teams are not using any automation at the moment, where they are whatever they are doing at the moment is a kind of point and click. So there is a lot of delays over there. So are we introducing automation over there? If yes, how did we introduce that? Because that's a kind of giving more capability to the team.
Yeah. So to summarize the question a little bit, I hope I get everything together. I think we should hand out mics. It makes it easier. How do we integrate other operational teams which are providing additional support to basically the operations team which are already using automation team? Chef automation, for example, or infrastructure as code. We are in the same situation. So we have also other teams. You can, for example, the network team, which are not using our automation for that. So here we have to use, of course, at the moment, if we can help and show them what we can automate, and we can offer them to automate their task as well, at least for our infrastructure and operation components which we are responsible for. or we have to live at the moment with the situation that they work in a manual process. So for that, we have also to create service requests or incident requests to other teams to deliver a service which we rely on. So we have not everything under our control. That's clear. I mean, this is, I think, in the most large enterprises, the case that we do not have the full infrastructure up down to the bare metal in one hand. So we're providing the operational support. We can deploy virtual machines. But we cannot go to the data center and put the physical machines into the rack. So this is some other service team which is providing that. I need to rush. I get signals. So let me just quickly finish the slides here, because I think here are two numbers which are also pretty impressive for us at least. We have also, or the automation team has created 27 landscape templates. So these templates is something where we are able to deploy a complete landscape setup. If it's multi-tier, if it's a cluster setup, whatever. So with one click, you can deploy basically and automate a complete setup of a landscape. And what we also do is we measure the execution of cookbooks. These numbers are also from the first half of the year. So within SAP, we can say that we have automations or individuals using our tools and using our cookbooks, and we have over 32,000 cookbooks executions in the last half year. So 30,000 times one of our 177 cookbooks was executed. And we have also over 6,000 landscapes deployed based on our landscape templates, what we have provided here. The last point what I have here on the slide here is also that, which I mentioned before, is that we apply and enforce configuration management on our infrastructure. So we have created also cookbooks and configurations to fulfill compliance, but also to fulfill some operational requirements from our operations team, which we apply to our infrastructure. So we make sure that we have several monitoring tools installed, that we have an antivirus solution installed on all the servers, that the security settings are set as they have to be. So this is what we're using also on our infrastructure, and which we enforce on a regular basis on all the servers. Just 2 slides left. I hope the time is enough. I just wanted to give you also a quick, not a demo, but just 2 screenshots about which I mentioned before as one of our services to our developers is. So our team has implemented with the SAP HANA cloud platform and user interface, which interacts with Chef to automate the infrastructure. So basically, the developers is able to go to a website, select if they want to have a landscape or a server deployed, can choose on a selection screen. It's really hard to see here, but you can filter, do a search about our 177 cookbooks what we provide. You can search for an application which you need to install. You can check mark it, and then you can click on a single button, and the tool takes care about to deploy either the single server or the landscape, and to do the installation based on the automation what we have created for here. So this helps also our development teams a lot to reduce the time to get machines and applications installed for their development. So what are the key takeaways of this talk here? And based on the questions, what I already answered is, our goal was to start the DevOps journey with small steps. Yes, you can do it for a complete enterprise if you do a big reorg or doing a top-down to execute DevOps in your organizations. Our approach was more to introduce the DevOps techniques and methods into our own organizations, and working together with our customers, our internal customers, and we started small. And we started with the teams and the development teams together and collaborated together. Then the second thing is you have to train and educate your teams to understand the reason, which is very important, to understand the value, why we are doing this. And of course, you need to learn and train the people about the new tools if you introduce something new to the organization, so that they have the knowledge and also the possibility to learn on those new tools. And of course, the most important thing is communicate and collaborate with other teams. In a big enterprise like SAP, so we are not the only one which are doing DevOps. There are a lot of other teams which are doing DevOps, and we try to identify, to find these teams and to collaborate with them as well. And of course, we try to collaborate and communicate with other development teams to have and build up a community within SAP so that we can make let's say, a transformation in the enterprise out of the community within SAP and not based on an organizational structure or transformation. So this was my talk on my slides. I think I'm on time, actually. So thanks for listening. If you have more questions, please feel free to come to me after the talk. And thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us, Martin.